Hi there, Sam Caspers. This week we're going over civil aviation authorities around the world. I chose the country of South Africa because it's a little bit different on how they run aviation in Africa, right? It's considered the Wild West. Here in the United States, pilots need a minimum of 1,500 hours to fly commercial, whereas in Africa, it varies by the country and whether or not they're a signatory of ICAO or the Chicago Convention, right? So I've heard that in some countries, 200 hours is the minimum barrier to become a commercial airline pilot, right? So very unique, very interesting. But we're going to be looking at the aviation maintenance side of the South African Civil Aviation Authority. All right, so you might be wondering, where can I find more info on this? Well, my video is great and it has a variety of tidbits and facts, right? You might have questions that I didn't answer. So if you go to their website, it's the top link there. It's caa.co.za, all right? Website is a little bit outdated, right? So probably 10 years aesthetically in the past versus what you see in Europe or North America. Now, where they do a really good job is their YouTube channel. Wealth of knowledge. There's a video for anything you could think of. You can do closed captions on it. You can do translations. It's amazing. Their YouTube team is great. If you're wondering where the SACAA gets its authority, it goes all the way back to 1998. Okay, this is when South Africa was reunifying. If you know anything, there had been a lot of civil unrest for a while in the 90s, right? So you had the white minority government kind of getting ousted by the black majority government, and they had more civil rights and started moving closer towards our Western democratic values, right? So in 1998, their parliament, which is their version of Congress, got together and started rewriting a bunch of laws to update the country to make it from more of like a second world country into a first world country. And so they did the South African Civil Aviation Authority Act of 1998. And what this did was lay a bare bones basis. What are we going to do to regulate our aviation industry? Now, fast forward 10 years, a lot more progress went through over those 10 years, right? And we had the Civil Aviation Act of 2009, and this outlined a couple more powers, a little more responsibilities, and it made the industry more professional. One thing to note, right? So these regional and global bodies that we're used to here in North America and Europe, they're not always followed all around the world. The one that is typically is ICAO. That's the International Civil Aviation Organization. It was founded in 1944 by the United Nations when they had the Chicago Convention, and that kind of regulates international air travel. And so South Africa is a country that is signed on to ICAO and the Chicago Convention. So they've kind of come up to the same standards as the rest of the Western world. Okay, but when we look at smaller, right, we're not on the global scale. When we look at that regional, smaller scale, they work with AFI, which is the Africa Indian Ocean Plan. Okay, and they're working with all the different countries in that area. They have different agreements to land at airports, to get servicing, to hold different governing bodies and just working together. That's kind of their regional partner. If you want to find reports and publications, you can view any of those regularly. They have annual safety reports, audit findings, and accident investigations all on that website on slide 2. So very transparent. It's amazing. Other countries don't always do this. North Korea is one of those. Now, if you look at their annual report, right, they have a highlight on safety oversight and incident response improvements. So this is really important because instead of blaming one individual person, they're looking at the systemic causes of weaknesses in their systems, and they're putting out studies. And you can read, okay, this is the abstract of the study, this is the hypothesis, so on and so forth. It's very scientific. It's very professional. It's not what I thought it was going to be. Now, moving away from all the regulations and the background of the SACAA, we can start looking at how can I take my FAA aviation mechanic license, the one with the airframe and the power plant rating, how can I take that and go over to South Africa and work, okay? So you can fill out the completed application form. It's on their website. you'll submit a certified copy of your FAA license. So you might think, well, my license is already certificated. How is that different than certified? Well, you have to take it to a third party. They're going to make copies of it, certify you are who you say you are. They're going to check with the FAA, make sure, hey, okay, this isn't fraudulent, and then they're going to translate it. So South Africa has 11 different languages that are recognized as official. So you need to have one of those languages your license translated into. Luckily, English is one of those 11 official languages. But let's say if we were in France, you need to get it translated to that one of those 11. Okay. You need to have proof of recent work experience. This is why maintaining a maintenance log is so important. A lot of companies they already have the job where you hey, this is your job task, you do the work, you close out it, and it goes in their system, but you're not actually recording it in your own book. So if you want, go get one of those paper copies from ASA, or you can set up a spreadsheet, but just start recording your work experience so you can show them what you've done. You're going to need a valid passport, and then sometimes if you like worked in the military or if you were an apprentice, you'll want those training logs as well. Now, moving away from the application side, right? They look at civil aviation accidents and incidents through their accident and incident investigation division, just like the FAA does in Oklahoma City. They still follow ICAO protocols. They still publish their findings, but their goal is to always improve safety and not to place blame on an individual. They're focused on finding those weaknesses and fixing those. And when we compare the SACAA to the FAA, it's very, very similar. They both enforce airworthiness, licensing, air traffic rules, but they align themselves closer with the UN, the ICAO standards, whereas the FAA makes their own standards a little bit different. Now, I don't have any more slides, but the most important thing, none of this matters if you don't understand their culture, okay? South African culture is very formal, it's very direct. Um, they may not go into a lot of detail with what they're telling you when you're working there, and you just have to pick up on that culture. It's going to be different than here in the United States. It wouldn't hurt to pick up a native tongue or two, right? There's 11 official languages. Don't expect to just go over there and speak English to every single person, right? A lot of them are polyglots, so that's amazing. They speak multiple languages, but tone it down a bit, right? Don't come over there with arrogance. Treat everyone with kindness. I mean, that's a universal rule, but over there it's even more important. So, uh, in conclusion, it's very easy to go work in South Africa. There's a step-by-step process on their website on how to translate your FAA license over to theirs. Um, they have tons of videos helping you through it, and there's a lot of resources that can recruit you over there through like Aerotech and some of these other contracting companies. So if you ever want to go see what the Wild West is like, what Africa's like, recommend applying.